Thank you guys so much for coming. I am very excited to be able to have people listen to me talk about something I'm very passionate about, and very happy that you guys are all here. So, who are we and why are we here? I know a lot of you might not know who I am, but my name is Eddie, and I am a certified nutrition coach. I'm a soccer player and someone who's very passionate about fitness and health. I try to strive to be my best possible self, and I think it's important to help people to also become their best possible selves.
Yeah, thanks, Edgar. I am Danielle, of course. I would say majority, if not all of you know me. If you not see me on the gym floor, I am training competitively as a bodybuilding athlete. I'm also a certified nutrition coach through NASM and a personal trainer, Corax. I truly believe that the real magic of nutrition is teaching y'all how to use your food as fuel for your body's strength and optimize your energy and really equate that food as fuel to your goals, and create more freedom around health without sacrificing what your actual life to life looks like, right? And making sustainable wellness.
Yeah, so in this webinar today, we're going to be emphasizing on making sure that you feel good and to have your nutrition fit into your life and your goals. So the big focus is your long-term success. So what we're going to talk about today, there's going to be a couple different sections. We're going to be talking about some basics on macronutrients, micronutrients. We're also going to be discussing nutrition thermodynamics. I know that is a big word, but it is very simple, and I will explain. And then we're also going to be giving you practical applications to all the information that we give you so you can apply it to your real life and have a real world balance. And at the end, we'll have a space for some Q&As, answer any questions you might have or anything you might not be so sure about. So we're going to go ahead and get started on the first section. First section is discovering macronutrients. So macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. I know probably most of us have heard those names, but we're going to learn about what they actually are and how our body uses them for us to be able to do activities from walking or running or even lifting in the gym. So the first macronutrient we're going to talk about is protein. Can anybody give me an example of a protein?
Chicken.
Chicken, pork chop,
Chicken,
Yes.
great. Meat, pork chops.
Tofu.
Tofu, great answer. Also a protein.
Fish.
Yes, fish is amazing. So protein is a macronutrient that is made up of small units called amino acids. So you can think of amino acids kind of like Lego blocks. So when we eat protein, such as fish, tofu, chicken, our body breaks those down into simple Lego blocks. And then depending on the configuration and how many are together, then that becomes various different things for our body. So the amino acids, the protein building blocks, they can be anything from a neurotransmitter for your brain, they can help your immune system, and of course, they are the muscles that you work out in the gym. The only problem with protein is that our bodies can't store protein the same way that it can store fats and carbohydrates. So it's really important that we get enough protein in our diets every day. Our bodies go through a process called protein turnover, which means that we are constantly breaking down and rebuilding and breaking down and rebuilding protein. So it is critical because we can't store it that we get a sufficient amount of protein. So you can think of protein as the main ingredient that your muscles are made of. Protein is what helps keep us strong. Does anybody have any questions?
I do, Edgar, Eddie.
Yes.
This I'm Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Protein. Yeah, I'm having a problem right now with protein, and I'm having an abundance of it. So the
Okay.
word scares me right now because I don't know where it's coming from. It's a whole lot, which is over into the urine. So that's something else going on. So I'm like this protein that you're mentioning that that it's in our food. This is what we need to eat. I think I'm getting an abundance of it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So protein, when we eat too much of it,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it could have some secondary side effects, like you had mentioned your urine. It could
Mm-hmm.
also make us kind of constipated if we don't have enough fiber in our diet.
Uh-huh.
But if you want me to speak to you about your specific issue, then at the end of the PowerPoint, I
Uh-huh.
have my email in there, and you can shoot me an email, and I will do my best to answer any questions you might have specifically
Okay.
to your situation.
Okay, great. Thanks.
No problem. Jacqueline put something in the chat, says, doesn't too much harm your kidneys? So I'm not exactly sure what would be defined as too much specifically, but I would be super glad to have some more research and get back to you on that so I can give you a better answer. So next are carbohydrates. So I know carbohydrates could be anything. Maybe we think of pasta or rice or potatoes. Carbohydrates, essentially, in its simplest forms, are sugars. Now, this isn't the same type of sugar that maybe you cook or you bake with, but similar to protein, they can be broken down and built back together into complex structures. So, again, similar to protein, the structure of the carbohydrate affects how they interact with our body, and when they're cooked or uncooked, that also has a big impact. So, carbohydrates are the main source of energy for our bodies. They are an extremely powerful source of energy when we do activities that raise our heart rate, something like playing sports, running, biking, even lifting weights. If you have a short rest period, our body uses that because it packs a way bigger punch than fats. So you can think of of carbohydrates as the main source of fuel for our bodies to do maybe activities that raise our heart rate or that we might need an extra kick or an extra punch to complete those activities. Does anybody have any questions on carbohydrates?
Yeah, should they be limited in your diet?
So it depends. It could depend on the type of carbohydrates. I think that in general, having whole foods, so that would be foods that it has one or as close to one ingredient as possible, maybe like white or brown rice, some pasta, some fruits are great carbohydrates. So it also depends on your specific goal. So maybe if you are not someone that is running a lot or doing a lot of high intensity exercise, you may not need that many carbohydrates in your diet.
So you want to make sure you're burning enough of them, using them from fuel basically, and not over being excessive with them.
Yes, carbohydrates are incredible for fuel. And just like anything else in excess, it is not very good for our bodies.
I would
And
almost say that carbohydrates equal energy.
yes, they do. Exactly. Any other questions?
Is there a better time to eat them? Like if you're going to be eating whole foods, is it better to kind of carb up more in the morning and as you, because of like our circadian rhythm, and then towards the evening, kind of not have as many carbs before you go to bed?
I think it depends on each person individually. I know some people like to have carbs for breakfast because it gives them energy for the day. And for some people, it might make them feel maybe slow or lethargic. I think having carbohydrates that are maybe something like fruit or something that's easily digestible before your workout can help you a lot and give you a lot of energy for your workout.
Okay, that was my question. Is it better to eat them before your workout or after?
Yes, I think having, like I said, a carbohydrate that's easily digestible. So maybe not something so heavy like a plate of pasta that might take a long time, but something small and sweet like a fruit or maybe even some rice cakes would be great to have before a workout to give you energy. And then after your workout, you can have a carbohydrate that will re kind of rejuice your muscles or refill your muscles with the sugar in your muscles that it used during your workout. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect. Next on the macronutrient list, 3 out of 3 are fats. So I know a lot of times we might have heard of saturated fats, non-saturated fats, but fats in general are organic. And the simplest unit, just how for proteins was an amino acid and for carbohydrate was sugar, for fat, it is called a fatty acid. Similarly to carbs and proteins as well, depending on how our body breaks it down and builds it up again, will dictate what job it has in the body. Fats are incredibly important. Fats also provide us with energy, even though the energy that we use fats for are for things that don't take as much intensity. So things like walking or just sitting or anything at rest. Fats help us balance our hormones. They form our brain, our nervous system. They help transport essential vitamins throughout our body. So fats are incredibly important, and we thrive best when we have a mix of different fats that occur naturally in different foods. So you can think of fats as like the behind the scenes, behind the curtain worker that keeps our systems running smoothly. Jacqueline had a question. I'm trying to understand what micronutrients are. Yes, so micronutrients is the slide just after this one. So we will get to that, no problem.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions on fats?
Do you want to, so you're talking about healthy fats, right? Because so there's healthy fats and then there's the non-healthy one.
Yeah, right now I'm talking about fats in general,
Okay.
but ideally, yes, it would be quote unquote healthy fats. Maybe some things like olive oil or some things that are least processed. Avocados, fish has fats as well, like salmon has a lot of fat. Any other questions? Perfect. Let's move on. Next are micronutrients. So this is for you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals that your body uses to stay healthy and work properly. They don't give us any energy, but similarly to fats, they are the behind the scenes worker that makes sure that everything is running smoothly. So we don't need a lot of micronutrients in our system, not anywhere near as much as we would need proteins, carbs, and fats, but they produce things that are incredibly important, like enzyme, hormones, proteins that are necessary for our growth and development, things that regulate our metabolism. They fight off disease, they repair our tissues. So micronutrients are like tools, kind of like in Hank's garage, that we would use to help our body do the jobs that they need to do. Do we have any questions on micronutrients?
What kind of source would micronutrients come from?
So micronutrients are in every food that we eat, every whole food that we eat. So, for example, if you're eating beef from a cow, the cow eats the grass or maybe some worms or whatever cows eat. That passes through the cow, and when we eat the meat from the cow, we are also eating those micronutrients. So they can be things as well like seeds or vegetables. I know a lot of times, me and myself, for example, I have a kind of once a day vitamin pill that has a bunch of micronutrients and vitamins and minerals just to make sure that I have everything I need and I'm not kind of stressing on trying to get every little bit that I can. Does
Do
that
you
answer your
have
question?
any recommended sources? Like you say, you take a supplement. Well, do you have any recommendations?
So I unfortunately live in Spain. So the supplement I have is just from my pharmacy, my local pharmacy. but I'm sure if you were to go to your pharmacy and talk to them, ask for a multivitamin, they would be more than happy to help you for whatever you might need.
Yeah, and there's definitely different supplement sources that you can understand like what your body needs. Like you can't just say one person might take this or person might take that. We can't just give you like a subscription type of mindset, but based off of like how your body responds to certain things. Like for example, I really need fish oil in my diet because I wasn't getting enough healthy fats, and that is a good amino acid or not amino acid, a good fatty acid in my chain and what I need. And so it's really understanding. You could even talk to your doctor and understand what your body needs based off your blood work too.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Danielle. Any other questions on micronutrients? Perfect. Let's move on. So this is where the magic comes in. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but vegetables and whole foods are incredibly important. So for each macro and micronutrient that we get from the foods that we eat, they have a specific role in our bodies. So our bodies are a bunch of chemicals made up together that are constantly changing. So when we have the tools that we need, we can make sure that this magical symphony of micronutrients, macronutrients, everything is working together to keep you feeling at your best. The reason why I call whole foods and vegetables magic is that whole foods, when we eat them, we get all of that in one go. So instead of maybe some foods that are very processed, they don't have all of that quote unquote magic in them. So we might have to take a supplement or something like that. When we eat whole foods, it all comes all together. So kind of like how I said, when a cow eats the grass and then we eat the cow meat, we are getting the nutrients from what the cow ate. So minimally processed foods that are diverse, colorful, and natural supply our body with everything it needs to not only function well, but to give you that extra boost to go and achieve your goals. And like I had mentioned earlier, our bodies have evolved and work best when we have a diverse and colorful diet. Are there any questions about whole foods? Maybe what is a whole food? Anything about vegetables? Maybe a magic question?
So since you said you are living in Spain, do you consider that you follow the more of the Mediterranean type diet, where it's more of the leaner fats and meats and some olive oil and salads? And because I hear over in Europe, a lot of their foods they taste so much better than what they are here in America because they're not as processed or pesticides or anything like that. So do you find it easier to eat a good whole food diet over there?
I would say that I do. I like that you mentioned pesticides. I think that a lot of that has to do with the kind of food and safety regulations that the country or wherever you might live might have. But at least in my experience, specifically in Spain, there are these shops called fruterias, which is kind of like these mom and pop fruit and vegetable shops, kind of scattered everywhere. So it is pretty easy. In terms of the Mediterranean diet, I know that here olive oil, because they produce a lot of it here, is really cheap and it tastes really good. And I might not say that I eat like a Mediterranean diet. I'm not a big fan of fish like that, only really like salmon. But it is easier to find and have access to fresh fruits and vegetables over here. I know that you also said that food, you have been told that it tastes better over here. And funny enough, when I was in Costa Rica, the fruits that I was eating over there were amazing. I promise you that I think about those fruits and those fruit smoothies that I had for breakfast every single day, and I miss them a lot.
Do you, would you recommend buying whole foods like that, fruits and vegetables from a local market to your area, or do you think they'd be the same from buying them from a mass um, wholesaler like Walmart or somebody?
I, excuse me. I think if you have access to any fresh local farm ingredients, I think that ideally is the best way to go because when kind of these big companies are in control of a lot of things at once, they might not be able to kind of keep an eye on every single thing that goes through it. And when you buy from your local farmer, your local vegetable farmer or cow farmer, you're also kind of supporting the local community as well. And I really like that. But I would say if you do have access to maybe a farmer's market or something like that, I would definitely try to go there as often as possible, especially because a lot of restaurants also shop at any local markets. So maybe that's why their food tastes so good. Now that I think
Yeah,
about it.
I agree.
What would you say your daily diet consists of just for a day?
My daily diet, I have eggs, whole eggs. I have Greek yogurt that is mixed with some blueberries, a little bit of honey, maybe some granola, depending on how I feel. I also have a lot of chicken, a lot of steak. I have sweet potatoes just because I love sweet potatoes. I have white and brown rice, and because I am Latin, I am Venezuelan. I grew up every day eating either a chicken or meat with rice and beans, and that is something that hits close to home, and I love rice and beans together.
Is there a
Thank you.
specific white rice that you use?
I just buy the white rice from my grocery store, the long
Okay.
grain.
Okay.
I
Oh,
I
yes.
think I tend to favor jasmine. That's why I didn't know if there was a difference in the
And I
plain
like
or the.
basmati.
Yeah, I have heard that jasmine and basmati rice is really good and it tastes really good. I've had
And I heard
some,
if you get it from California, the arsenic levels are a lot lower.
maybe I'm not too knowledgeable about the arsenic levels in California,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
I also follow like his name is Dr. Michael Greger, and they have a what they call a dirty dozen and a clean dozen. I think the environmental working group also has that list also. So like if you're like perplexed of whether you should buy organic, what you should buy organic or what you could buy just off the shelf, um, there is that dirty dozen list that you should buy organic with. And so that's a kind of good thing to follow too, especially if you can't afford to buy organic for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's great. If you maybe would be so kind to throw that link in the chat and then we can take a look at it and send it out to our other members who didn't get a chance to be here today.
Now you're trying to ask me to be techie. I'll try.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions?
nutritionfacts.org. That's
Perfect.
where
There you
Dr.
go.
Greger's.
Make sure
Thank
to
you.
write that down. Awesome. So next we're going to talk about nutrition thermodynamics. So thermodynamics is just a big fancy word of saying the transfer of heat or energy. So we're going to be talking about losing weight, gaining weight, or just wanting your weight to stay the same. So losing weight. Typically, when we say we want to lose weight, we mean we want to lose body fat. So to lose weight, the most important thing is we want to be in a caloric deficit. So that means that you're using more energy than you're intaking or eating. This also means that you have to consistently eat less than your maintenance. Your maintenance is the number of calories that it takes to just maintain that same weight. It is also really important that we lose weight at a safe and sustainable pace because things like crash diets, when they're not sustainable, they could have a yo-yo effect where you end up gaining all the way back or even more than you had before. I know I have many years of yo-yoing and it is not fun. Some useful tips when losing weight is when you're feeling hungry, drink some water first. Maybe sometimes you're just thirsty. The same hormone for hunger and thirst is ghrelin. So maybe sometimes we're just thirsty and we need some water. Another big useful tip is to eat high volume, low calorie foods. Something like a watermelon is a great example because watermelons are massive and because they are mostly made of water, they don't have a lot of calories. Another good thing to do is to track your progress because when you see that you are progressing, it makes us want to keep going and it keeps our motivation high. One big thing to remember when losing weight is that it is difficult. It is not something that is easy. Our bodies have adapted and evolved for the sole purpose of keeping us alive. If we are eating at a caloric deficit, our body is going to think that we are dying because we are not getting enough food to maintain ourselves. So it will actively fight against you when trying to lose weight. Maybe you'll feel really hungry. That being said, it's not impossible. You can lose weight. Others have done it, and you can absolutely do it as well. Any questions on losing weight?
Are there any foods that help with um, hormonal imbalances, specifically like in women going through life changes?
So I am not very knowledgeable about women hormones, being as I have never experienced them. But I am pretty sure that Danielle is working on getting her certification and learning a lot about women's hormones, and she would be more than happy to answer your questions and help you out.
That is correct, Verlene. I'm not certified yet, and so I don't really feel comfortable about having a full conversation on it. But once I do get that certification, we could definitely have a conversation on that.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're doing that, Danielle.
I'm excited. Thank you.
I know for me, when I started getting my hot flashes and Dr. Michael Greger, I was reading through his stuff and also some other doctors. And by having soy, I added a cup of soy milk and to my oatmeal and some edamame, like a cup of edamame for my lunch, like whether it's to like a meal bowl, a grain bowl or something like that. I cut my hot flashes down by about 75 to 80%.
Oh,
It really worked for me.
Wow, that's
And
pretty awesome. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, because there's a lot of glyphosate sprayed on the soybean crops, I always try to get organic whenever I can. But the flaxseed, because it has the phytoestrogens in it, and then the soybeans, and then the soy milk, it helped me a lot with that.
That's interesting because I've heard mixed reviews on soy altogether, so that's amazing it's worked for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really depends on everybody's hormones because they're all different at the end of the day. And as we age, all of our hormones are going to be at different levels. And so sometimes, like Lori, that's great that works for you, but Jacqueline, that might not work for you. Or it might, you never know. So I think that's something to consider, but that's really great that that is something that works for you, Lori.
yeah, definitely. Awesome. Next slide is gaining weight. So gaining weight is going to be the opposite of losing weight. So to gain weight, we need to be in a caloric surplus, which means that we are using less energy than you're intaking, or you're intaking more energy than you're using. Again, consistency is the key. So if we want to gain weight, we want to consistently eat slightly more than our maintenance. Because a lot of times when we talk about gaining weight, most of the time we talk about gaining muscle mass. So if we go crazy and we eat everything, we're not going to be gaining a lot of muscle mass, and a lot of it could be fat as well. Same thing with losing weight. Gaining weight at a safe and sustainable pace is critical to help prevent any health complications that might arise. Some useful tips for gaining weight is to focus on protein and whole foods. so that most of the weight that we gain should be muscle mass. Big tip as well, eat foods that make you feel good and strong. And then similarly to losing weight, tracking your progress is key to keeping your motivation high. Because gaining weight is significantly easier, as we all might know, than losing weight, we want to make sure that we focus on our food quality and our protein intake. Staying healthy while we gain weight is of the utmost importance. Do we have any questions on gaining weight?
No, I'm trying to lose weight.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Well, I have found honestly, since I've joined Corax, I have gained weight, but I have maintained the same size. So I'm thinking it's muscle weight that I'm
Yes,
gaining. So
exactly.
it's even though my weight has gone up, I'm not going up in size necessarily. So it's not a bad thing when you gain weight sometimes.
Correct. It is also important to mention that when you strength train, you are increasing the amount of muscle, your lean muscle mass in your body. And muscles are a lot denser and weigh a lot more than fat. So that might be why your weight, as in the number of the scale, has gone up, but maybe not your body fat, like you were saying. Next is going to be maintaining your weight. So maintaining your weight is not going to be eating less or eating more, but kind of right around the same amount of calories as your maintenance. Again, consistency is key, and it's also very, very important to note that slight fluctuations in weight are very normal. Maybe sometimes we eat something that makes us feel a little bloated, or maybe we have, let's say, a big bowl of pasta, and because carbohydrates absorb a lot of water, we might be heavier or have more weight, but it doesn't actually mean that we've gained any fat. So some useful tips when we're trying to maintain our weight is going to be really important to take note of how different foods make you feel. Because we also not only do we want to enjoy what we're eating, but we also want to feel good after. Another useful tip to maintaining your weight is to try new recipes. Maybe the same ingredients can be cooked a bunch of different ways. And it'll make it fresh and make it feel new and fun. And it won't kind of feel like you're eating the same meals every day. I personally am kind of weird and I have the same thing for breakfast every day, but that's just because I really love it. I know my mom and my dad do not like to eat the same thing every day. So for them,
I
it's,
eat the same thing every day.
yeah, yeah, me too. So, like I said before, our bodies naturally fluctuate in weight depending on multiple factors. So it's really good to give yourself a healthy range and to give yourself some grace, to live within that range. Do we have any questions on maintaining weight? Perfect. So we're going to have a 2 to 3 minute intermission while I give Danielle the host powers.
I get all the power.
Yeah.